thank you so much for joining me. In today's video, I am finally going to be testing out, playing with, letting you know my thoughts about the new Morphe Fluidity foundation and concealers. Yes, and the powders too, but I only have two hands, so you know, this is what we got. But I have the powders, concealers, and foundation. I actually ordered these on the day that they launched. I had a little sample and I swatched all of them, found my right colors, ordered them. It took a really long time for them to get here. I don't know why. Morphe's usually pretty quick about shipping, but this time it was very slow. I actually, in addition to that, I have been trying them out, wearing them, testing them for the past 4 days. So I finally feel like I'm in a place where I can give you my true real thoughts about how it works, the pros, the cons, the pluses, the minuses, all the fun stuff about like what I actually think about the foundation from a non-Morphe affiliate here, so I can give you the real tea and let you know what's the story, okay? I always say what's the story wishbone, but I realize that's probably like a little small subsection of millennials who actually know who wishbone is. You know? I used to say this to other friends. This is a total tangent. Why am I going here? I don't know. But this is what's happening and we're going to talk about it. But I used to always say, like I would text friends, be like, hey, what's the story, wishbone? And they'd be like, what are you talking about? It's only the very specific millennials that like didn't have cable growing up and watched PBS Kids all the time, like me. I know you're out there because I've met other people out there. So like, who are my wishbone fans out there? Please let me know. I love wishbone. He's a okay. Now, this is too much. Let's get back and talking about the foundation. So yes, I will give you the real story, wishbone, and let you know what I think about the foundations, concealers, powders, all that fun stuff. I already said that. Okay, let's just hop into it right now. Let's just jump into it and get started. So I've zoomed in a little bit. I've also gone ahead and done an eyeshadow look because I like to do my eyeshadow before foundation if I'm going to do something a little bit darker or more dramatic. Let's just go ahead and start with the foundation. So this is the Morphe Fluidity foundation. It comes in 60 shades. So according to Morphe, it is supposed to be a 24-hour wear time. It's supposed to be sweat-proof, transfer resistant, as well as water resistant. It is free of oils, fragrances, and parabens, and it is supposed to be for all skin types. So when I did go ahead and swatch everything and test it out, I kind of settled on the shades F2, so the medium shade range, shades 60, 70, 80, and 110. So once I actually got them and have been playing with them a little bit, I actually really like shades F270 and F280 mixed together. I think these are a really nice match for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Oh, before I do that, actually, I'm gonna prime my skin. I was an idiot. I forgot to order the primers that came with this foundation. They released 2 primers at the same time. I think they released a more hydrating primer as well as a more mattifying primer. I was going to get them. I forgot. It already took a really long time for them for the foundations to arrive in the mail, so I didn't order the primers, but I think that's okay. You know, I don't think you should have to have the matching primer in order for a foundation to work. You should be able to use any kind of primer that you want. So I'm going to start and just do my kind of normal cocktail pore filling with the Tarte Clean Slate. I'm going to do just kind of a general all over. I've really been back into the Fenty Instant Retouch Primer for a minute, and then I'm going to go just hit the T-zone with my Becca Ever Matte Poreless Primer. So I'm just going to quickly go ahead and prime my face fast. Okay, I've primed. Let's go ahead and put the foundation on my face. I'm mixing the shades F270 and F280. I think it's a really nice shade match when I do end up mixing these two foundations. And oh, and then just for a little extra fun, because you know, why not? Over the past 4 days, I have exclusively applied this foundation with a beauty blender, mostly just because I'm lazy and I find it faster to wash beauty blenders than to wash brushes. But I thought for today, since I have not tried it with a brush, why not to do a little half and half kind of deal. So I'm going to use my favorite foundation brush from Morphe. This is the Y6 brush, and then I'm going to use a Morphe blending sponge. This is the contour and highlight complexion sponge thingy. I don't know, I've never used this one before. I do like this brush, so I thought let's just do a little half and half test play time to see what actually works best with this foundation. My hair's getting like in the way. I'm just gonna put it up really quickly while I actually do the foundation. And try not to get foundation all over my hair. Okay, there we go. So this is half the face done with the sponge. In general, I don't like this sponge. This is kind of hard. I don't like this texture of sponge. I like when it's a little bit softer, so I love my Beauty Blender. I like the Real Technique sponge. I think that one's really nice. Yeah, this one's just a little bit hard. I like the shape that it's super flat on the sides, but other than that, I'm not a huge fan of this sponge in particular, but I still think it did a nice job. The reason I just did half and half was because this foundation does tend to dry down quite quickly, so you need to kind of work fast once you start applying it, I feel like. Now let's go ahead and do the side with the brush. Okay, well I put way too much on this side for sure, because the side with the brush is a lot more full coverage. I mean, I would still say that the Beauty Blender side is pretty full coverage. You can't really see too much of my redness or anything poking through, but you can still see, I feel like, my skin a little bit through the foundation, especially on my forehead. You can just see the difference in coverage, and I definitely should have thought about that. With the brush, you do get a fuller coverage just because there's not any product being absorbed by the sponge. So yeah, let's like look at my forehead and you can really see the difference between, this is the side with the sponge, which is, yes, full coverage, but I feel like it's a lot more natural. This is a lot more just like caked on, and honestly I had a lot more trouble blending it in with the brush because I got too much on. That's my fault. Mea culpa. I'm to blame. I should have thought about that before I just put the same amount of product on my face as I had been using with the brush or with the sponge. So now I'm in a little bit of a jam. I don't know what to do because I don't know how to blend it in. I don't like how this looks with the brush at all. I just feel like it's kind of sinking into my pores already, especially on my forehead, and it just looks so much more like a mask. I really don't like it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and blend it in with the sponge just to kind of even everything out, and I don't like the way this applied with the brush. I think it's a little too thick and too heavy for a brush. I think it needs the moisture and the absorption from the sponge to really get it to look a little bit better. So there we have it, the total foundation full application. I have more on than I have been wearing in the last couple days. It's not looking as great just because I added a little extra on this side just to get the coverage to kind of match and not make my face look totally lopsided. But yeah, you can definitely say that this is a full coverage. I do already see a little bit of settling into my smile lines, which I don't love, but let's just keep going. I'll save all of my thoughts and my analysis on the foundation for the end. So let's move on and start talking about the concealer. This full coverage concealer comes in 31 shades. It's supposed to be a 16-hour long wear. It is, again, sweat-proof, transfer-resistant, water-resistant, free of fragrance and parabens, and it's ophthalmologist tested. And this retails for $9 each. So I actually ended up getting quite a few shades. I got 5 shades. I got 4 shades that are kind of like my face concealing shades, and then I also got a darker shade. I got C4115, which I thought maybe I could contour with. Now that I actually have it in front of me, it looks kind of light and kind of tan. I don't think it's going to be quite dark enough to contour. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. And especially complexion products are really in demand for a lot of women's shelters. So I think I'm going to keep this new and unused and just donate it because I don't feel like it's really going to do that much to contour with. So this one's going back in the box and I'm going to donate it. I had a really hard time getting the shades for these. I ended up picking out the shade C4115, 335, which I thought would be a skin tone shade. It looks like a skin tone shade in the bottle, and the swatches, it actually is a little bit darker, so I did not use this the first day. I also have the shades C255 and C215, and then I also picked up the shade C155, which is super, super bright and lightening. Well, turns out that like kind of none of these work exactly like I like. I do like the 200 shades, but on their own, these two don't really cover up my dark circles. They don't provide enough coverage to really cancel out the dark circles. So what I've been doing the last 2 days in testing this out is going in with this shade, the 335, and using that as kind of just almost like a corrector, because it has like a very warm undertone. Even though it's a little bit dark from my skin tone, I think it works the best to cancel out the dark circles. So I'm gonna go in with a 335, and I just put this in the areas where I have the most dark circles, and I don't kind of go too crazy with it. Okay, so that's all for that shade. I am now gonna take 255 and use this to really conceal the rest of everything. Now, I would probably take this and do the rest of my concealing or even highlighting, but for the sake of this video, and since I have already used it, I'm going to just go ahead and show you 215, since, you know, it'll let you see another shade of the concealers. And then finally, if I'm not extra enough, I'm gonna take the super, super bright highlighting one and just hit this forehead and then right in the center of my concealer. Just to really brighten up, like right here in the middle, and that's it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use the sponge and blend all this stuff out. Oh, I legitimately hate this sponge. I really, really dislike this. I dislike this a lot. I miss my beauty blender. I miss my Real Techniques sponge. Oh, it's a little too dense. It feels kind of hard. And then this foundation and concealer, they dry down quite quickly. And so you need to like really be able to blend it in. And I think it needs that extra like moisture to blend it. And this just is not providing enough moisture to really blend well. I don't. Actually, I mean, I do get it. I do get why everyone says it's so great. It's because, you know, you want to use their code, but you know, they need to promote Morphe. I'm not knocking the hustle. Like I'm certainly not. You know what? You got to do what you got to do to make that money. But for someone who has absolutely no stake in Morphe, I don't know anyone who has a code for Morphe. Like, I have no reason to say that this is great, and it's not. Like, I've tried a lot of Morphe things. I feel like I don't have a problem with Morphe. I actually like their brushes. I think they're a fairly good quality and pretty inexpensive, especially for someone who's just starting out or, you know, doesn't have a ton of money to spend on, like, you know, brushes. I think they're a really great option. I haven't had any issues with them, and a lot of their makeup I feel like actually does perform pretty well for a really inexpensive price. So I'm not hating on Morphe at all. I'm not hating on Morphe, and I'm not hating on the hustle. Like, you do what you gotta do, boo, to get that coin. That's fine. I don't knock it, but I hate this sponge. I hate it so much. Okay, I'm back. I fixed the lighting, and yeah, I think it looks better. It's always a hassle. I like filming with natural light because I just feel like it shows the true color of everything a little bit better, but it is a hassle that when, you know, time passes and the light changes, it's a hassle to work with natural lighting. So anyways, I'm working on like fixing my lighting setup and actually getting something a little bit more, whatever. That'll be a problem for a later day. That'll be a problem for a latter day. Where are my musical theater people at? We are Latter-day Saints. All right, so let's go ahead and set everything that's going on here. So I also got the new powders that were released with this collection. So these are the Filt'r Effect Finishing Powders. These come in 15 shades. This shine-free, oil-absorbing pressed finishing powder that completes or freshens up any look. The balm coverage and silky soft formula means that each one is good enough to swipe on over bare skin or a beat face. So this has buildable sheer to medium coverage, a creamy, lightweight formula, selfie approved, and includes a puff for on-the-go application. So you open it up, it comes with a mirror, here's the powder, and then it flips up, and underneath you have this little like puff, so that if you were to take this on your bag and use this to touch up, you could do that. Also, with this foundation, I have tested it using these, and these technically say finishing powder, but I have seen people use finishing powders to set their face. I've done both. I have set my face using these powders, and I have also set them with a setting powder to see how the foundation reacted with like a regular go-to. My favorite, I used my Holy Grail favorite Too Faced Peach Perfect setting powder. I think the foundation worked really well with a regular setting powder. I don't think it reacted differently with that. And I have actually used these powders to set my full face. I've also just set under my eyes with my go-to setting powder, and then used one of these shades to kind of set the rest of my face lightly. So I've done it all, and I really don't notice a difference in like wear time or even, you know, creasing or, you know, shine or oil control, depending on which powder I use with this foundation. So for today's video, since I'm testing all the powders, I'm going to try to use them all. I'm going to go ahead and just set everything with the new Morphe powders. I'm going to start with Filt'r number 4. And I'm going to take this on a new brush that I also just picked up recently. This is the Morphe M536. This is supposed to be an under eye powder brush. This is kind of a light sort of cream banana-esque powder, and I'm going to use this to set under my eyes. I love a good brightening banana powder under my eyes. I think it's great. Okay, and then for the rest of my face, I'm going to go ahead and set with shade Filt'r number 6. This one's just a little bit darker and it's a little bit more neutral. So I'm going to set this using a tapered powder brush on the rest of my face. And just kind of lightly tapping it in and then buffing it. Okay, so that's it. That's the base of the face kind of done. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly finish up the rest of my face, and then I'll be back and we will just talk about everything. Well, not everything. The powders, concealers, and foundations, and I'll let you know my final thoughts. So I will be right back in a jiff. Okay, here we are, we're back. I finished up the rest of my face. I'm gonna set it because we're in the Morphe zone. I've never used this setting spray before. I have bought it a while ago, but never used it. So we're gonna set all this in place because I actually really like my makeup today. Whoa. Whoa, that was, wow. Didn't feel like I was spraying anything on my face, but my hair's slightly wet, so I know it worked. Whoa, okay, that's cool. That's cool. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the foundations, powders, concealers, all that jazz. So let's just really quickly start with the foundations. I actually, oh, that was backwards. Foundations. Foundations. Okay, so I actually really like this foundation. I do, because one, from afar, just look at my skin. It is even. It is a really nice color match. I think the fact that they have 60 foundation shades is really like phenomenal. I've heard things that maybe the undertones are not so great for some of the darker shades. I can't judge that, obviously. I don't have darker skin, so I don't know, but I think just the fact that brands are now trying to up their game when it comes to the number of shades. Now, are they always going to hit it out of the ballpark with all of the shades, all of the undertones, all of the time? Probably not. I mean, we know that from Beauty Blender. They really tried to do something and it failed. But I think the fact that Morphe was trying to have a very wide range of shade options in this foundation that is also very affordable, I think is commendable. And I think we have to give credit where credit is due. So it's commendable that they have 60 shades. And I think that it's nice the way that they split it up. in that there were 5 categories of 12 foundations in each, I think was really useful and helpful. And for my particular skin tone, so I swatched the majority of the F2 shades, so the medium shades. I think the undertones actually worked really well. I think you could tell a clear difference between, you know, the neutral undertones, the pink undertones, and the warm undertones, and it was actually a pretty nice range for the medium skin tone. For the light shades, I also got a little sample pack and swatched them on my mother's skin, so she's a light skin tone. It actually, I think, kind of skewed a little more towards the pink for her. Her shade actually ended up being the F1110 shade, which I believe is a neutral. I still felt like there was quite a range, and we were able to find a shade that matched her really well. So skin tone, I think that's a plus. That's a definite yes. I think it's great. Price, $18 for 1 ounce. Yes, people have been saying, oh, that's higher than like the kind of normal Morphe price range. Yes, it is, but for a complexion product, for a foundation, I think $18 is a really good price. I mean, I think a lot of other, you know, drugstore priced foundations, the ColourPop No Filter foundation, which I personally really love, is $12, and you get slightly less than 1 ounce. So yeah, it's slightly higher than the drugstore prices, but I still think $18 for a 1 ounce of foundation is really, really reasonable. Now let's get into actual wear time and all that fun stuff. So I already talked about when I was putting it on, it dries down very quickly, so you need to move fast when you're working with this. I definitely would recommend using a sponge, not this sponge, because I hate this sponge. I definitely would recommend using a sponge as opposed to a brush. When it comes to wear time, they claim it's up to 24 hours. I definitely don't agree with that. I don't think it's a 24-hour wear foundation. And here's why. Yesterday, I was wearing this, and it was just kind of a regular day. My mother and I did some errands. We went and had coffee. She went to work. I came back home, worked on, you know, another video, and did some emails and all that kind of fun stuff. Nothing really, like, I didn't have a lot of, it wasn't too much. And it looked really good, like, all day. Literally, like, the majority of the day, it looked so, so good. And I kept looking, checking in the mirror, and I was like, wow, it's like really controlling my oils. But right around that 7-8 hour mark, I think you could go past that 8-hour mark to maybe the 9-hour mark. It started to go downhill quite quickly. From that point on, it got like exponentially worse with every passing hour. So I ended up doing my makeup at around 9 a.m. In the morning. I started to take my makeup off around 2. I had slept in it for like 2 hours, took a little nap on the couch, and then woke up and was like, oh, I gotta like go to bed and take my makeup off, and took a quick picture. So I will insert that picture here. You can see pretty much that like the foundation is completely worn off my chin, which I tend to rest my like chin on my hand throughout the day. So if I'm going to have makeup wearing off, it's always going to be on my chin or on my nose. It also did wear off my nose quite a bit, and as you can see, I got quite oily through my T-zone, especially on one side of my nose. I don't know why one side of my nose got more oily yesterday than the other. That was kind of weird, but it got really oily on this side of my nose, and then also, like, you know, I think I bumped my nose throughout the day, and it started to wear off there. You can also just tell on my forehead how it just, you could see my pores, and it just started not looking so great. I also just felt like it got really cakey, like kind of right here in like the middle part of my face, like around my nose, mouth, and like this lower part of my cheeks. Like it just started to get really cakey and heavy, and it just like started to, you know, kind of settle into my pores and on the fine lines, and it just started to not look so great. So I think it starts out looking really good and it lasts, but probably around that like 7, 8, 9 hour mark, I think as it starts to go downhill, it just gets like progressively worse. Each and every hour, it gets worse and worse and worse. So I would not say that this is 24 hour. Definitely not 24 hour, but pretty good. On Sunday, I did again wear this for almost as many hours as I did. Actually, maybe I wore it for the same amount of time. I actually think I wore it for the same amount of time. On Sunday, I did my makeup at like 8 a.m. and took it off maybe around like, I think I took my makeup off early. It might have been like 12:30 or 1. Early. It's early for me. And I think it actually looked better on those days because I did touch up using this powder kind of throughout the day. So I feel like these powders actually do work to kind of prolong the wear of the foundation and kind of just make it look a little bit better for longer. Most people don't wear their foundation for like 24 hours at a time. I mean, I know shift workers do, grad students, aka me, I used to wear my foundation for 16 hours. Like that was a pretty standard day. It was like getting ready at 7 a.m., getting home at midnight, you know. I've heard a lot of people talk about how this foundation is not good on dry skin. So while I have a lot of oil production going on in my T, the rest of my face is very dry, especially around my eyes. And I actually had like I don't want to say a breakout, but I had a particularly dry period of time with my skin at the late last week, like right before I started using this foundation. And so I was worried. I was like, ooh, I hope this doesn't make my skin worse, because there have been other foundations that have been super mattifying that do dry out my skin. The Tarte Shape Tape Mattifying Foundation, for example, which I do really, really like because it is so long wearing. Like that foundation is bulletproof, like it's not going to go anywhere. But after I wear it for maybe 4 days in a row, I start noticing it really, really drying out my skin. This being is my 5th day of wearing this foundation, I haven't noticed any extra dryness. So I really don't know. I think if you have dry patches on your skin already, it's going to cling to those and it's going to accentuate those. Just because if you have any kind of texture on your skin, if you have enlarged pores, if you have, you know, any wrinkles, or I think maybe, you know, I have some like acne scarring and a little bit of texture on the sides of my face from like acne scarring. I just have some whiteheads that like refuse to go away. So I do have some texture, but I think if you have anything more than just like the tiniest little bit of texture, I think it's going to really cling to it and accentuate this. So in general, with this foundation, yeah, I think I would recommend it, with the understanding that if you have any kind of texture or lines or dry patches, it's probably not going to look the best. If you don't want super full coverage, you're not going to like this. It is very full, very like, no, it's not messing around with the coverage, which I personally like. And you can get it more full coverage like I did on this side, or you actually can kind of shear it out. If you don't apply as much and you use a sponge, I think you can kind of shear it out to do the more medium full coverage, but it's never going to be like medium or like a light coverage kind of foundation. It's going to be up there in terms of coverage, which I personally like, but if you don't, this is probably not the foundation for you. Now let's move on to the powders. I do think they're pretty good at kind of blurring. They have like a soft blur kind of a finish to the face. I think they're really nice. I like that they have, I think it's a fairly good range. They have 15 shades. So I do like these. I think that they do a nice job of, you know, setting the face, adding just a little bit of extra coverage, or, you know, a little color if I want to brighten, or, you know, whatever. I think they're nice for that. I also do think that they do a fairly good job of controlling the oil. So like I said, on Sunday, I wore the foundation for pretty much the same amount of time that I did yesterday, but I blotted and touched up with these powders, and I think it actually did do a nice job of prolonging the wear. So overall, I think these are pretty good, and for $12, I don't have anything bad to say about the powders. I was worried that they would kind of cling to the foundation, but they're such a lightweight powder that I think they actually do a nice job, and they don't look particularly heavy on your skin with this very heavy-duty foundation. So last but certainly not least, well, maybe least, because these are the ones that I kind of just feel not so great about, let's talk about the concealers. So I don't love these concealers. I mentioned it earlier that when I just use the lighter shades to conceal under my eyes and highlight, it didn't cover up all of my dark circles, which is a big no for me. And these concealers are very, very, very thick, and they almost feel a little bit heavy on the skin. It feels like for the amount of coverage that these are supposed to give, and for how thick and heavy they are, I don't think they're that great. I just didn't feel like the coverage was really there when you're just using like a light brightening concealer. Also, I just had a hard time picking the shades of these. So I don't think that any of these really look like the color on the box, how they're described, and I don't even think they're true to color on the website. Even for $9, I would kind of pass on these unless you have like perfectly smooth under eyes and don't have any dark circles to conceal. I don't like the concealers, and I don't think I would recommend the concealers. These can go over with the sponge. Okay, so that is everything. Those are all of my non-sponsored, non-Morphe affiliate thoughts on the new Morphe Fluidity foundation and concealers, as well as the Filtered Effect powders. Thank you so much for watching. We just hit 100 subscribers on this channel. Like, I can't believe it. Thank you. I still am just in shock that like 100 of you, which I know maybe 100 doesn't sound like a lot, but to me it just literally means the world that there are 100 people out there in the world who are watching my videos. Like I cannot believe it, and I cannot thank you enough. Like, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I can't even describe it. So that's really awesome. But if you're not one of those 100 people and you haven't yet subscribed, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you'll be notified every single time that I upload a new video. I have a new video that's coming out that is really exciting to kind of celebrate hitting 100 subscribers, so you definitely do not want to miss that. Thank you again for watching. I hope your day is fantastic. I love you all so much. Bye!